Ready to go, Councilman.
Thank you. You all set?
Your project.
Okay, so we're going to call this meeting to order. Council meeting on October 27th. Margot, take it away.
I, Margot G.K., the town clerk of the town of Morristown, do hereby state that it is 7:32 p.m. on Tuesday, October 27th, 2020, and that this meeting is being held remotely via webinar. Both adequate and electronic notice of this meeting were provided according to law by written notice to the Morristown Daily Record, the official newspaper of the town of Morristown, and to the Newark Star Ledger, both more than 48 hours ago. Notice was also posted in Town Hall and on the town website and filed with the office of the town clerk of the town of Morristown. I do further state that I shall enter into the minutes of this meeting a statement that such notice was furnished as particularly described by me in this public announcement. Roll call, Councilwoman Cotton.
Present.
Councilman Elms.
Present.
Councilwoman Foster.
Here.
Councilman Iannacone.
Here.
Councilwoman Mayer.
Here.
Councilman Silver.
Present.
And Council President Arlington.
Here.
Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Wonderful. All right, let's sit for a moment of silence.
Council President, if we can keep the family of Hilda Pritchard, she works for the town of Morristown. Sister passed away. We can keep her in thoughts and prayers and her family.
Okay, now we'll sit for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
To the
flag
of the United
United
States
States
of
of
America,
and to the republic for which it
and
and
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started tonight, please be aware that public comment during the public hearing portions of this meeting will be moderated through the Zoom app. At the appropriate time, members of the public wishing to speak should indicate so by raising his or her hand in the app. You will find the raise your hand icon at the bottom left of your screen. You may also raise your hand by pressing *9 on your telephone. When it is your turn, the moderator will send a signal and ask that you unmute yourself so that you may be heard. Please be advised that comments received via email will be read at the conclusion of the public hearing. We have 2 items on the consent agenda this evening. Unless a member of council would like to consider them separately, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Councilwoman Cotton.
Yes.
Councilman Elms.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster.
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone.
yes,
Councilwoman Mayer.
Yes.
Councilman Silva.
Yes,
Council President Arlington.
Yes.
Motion carries. At this time, I'll open up the floor for a public hearing on any matter. Again, please raise your hand in the Zoom app to indicate that you would like to speak. If you've joined the meeting via telephone, press *9. Kindly state your name and address and limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. Be advised that any derogatory comments targeting members of council and/or administration may be ruled out of order. Also, please be advised that there were no comments received via email for this meeting.
Okay, Councilman, the first public speaker is Leah Gacion. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Leah, if you could unmute yourself and then state your name and address to the record, please.
Hi, Leah Gacion, 10 Mendham Ave, Morristown, New Jersey.
Take it away, Leah.
Hi, everybody. My name is Leah Gacion. I am familiar with some of you, and some of you I am not familiar with, so it's nice to meet some of you. I am the chef and owner of South and Pine in Morristown, New Jersey. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today regarding an initiative that is so important to so many small businesses in Morristown and elsewhere. The restricted beer, wine, and cider license is an essential lifeline for so many BYOB restaurants in the state that are already struggle with New Jersey's antiquated and anti-competitive liquor laws and who have now been decimated by the pandemic. This bill essentially allows BYOB restaurants to serve beer, wine, and cider at table service. It prohibits serving other alcohol or in a bar setting to allow an ongoing commercial advantage to full license holders. It also provides for compensation in the form of tax credits over a 10-year period for those that have paid inflated amounts for full licenses. This bill is designed to strike an appropriate balance between the various competing interests and is only one important step in the process of modernizing this state's liquor license laws and aligning it with other states. However, this bill is urgent. This is a direct effort to provide immediate assistance to struggling BYOB establishments who have largely been left out of state and municipal attempt to provide relief to the restaurant industry. This is an industry that is a major employer in our state, one that generates significant tax revenues, one that attracts tourist dollars, and which provides a livelihood for many downstream businesses. Importantly for you, this is also an industry that probably does more than any other to create a vibrant and flourishing downtown environment. Sadly, it is also an industry that has been disproportionately hit by the pandemic and the necessary actions to control it. 35% of restaurants in the state have already closed permanently, and that percentage is expected to increase dramatically in the next few months if immediate and sensible steps are not taken to support it. The additional revenues from this restricted liquor license will save many BYOB restaurants on the brink of closure. It does seek to balance the various competing interests and to be fair to all. We need the Township Committee to speak up in support of this bill by vocalizing its support to the Senate Committee, to the Governor, and within our own municipal bodies so that a united and broad voice of support is heard and action is taken. This is important to this town to ensure Morristown remains a vibrant and diverse dining destination and does not soon become a downtown full of for lease signs. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Gassion.
All right. The next speaker is Linda Kahn. Ms. Kahn, if you will unmute yourself, state your name and address to the record, please.
My name is Linda Kahn. My address is 7 Arborview Way, Morristown, New Jersey, 07960. I transmitted a letter to the town council this morning at about 11 o'clock and to other town officials. The detailed letter identified 7 different reasons why town council members should vote against the proposed park resolution. I asked that Morristown make my letter a part of the public record. I'd also like to briefly describe a few of my points. First, the town council has not made the plans for the park publicly available. Shouldn't the public have a right to see the plans and comment on them, given that the proposed park plan calls for an $811,000 expenditure of taxpayer revenues? Second, the town council should reject the resolution because it calls for a park to be built that fails to conform with core park requirements that were identified in 4 different Speedwell redevelopment plans. All 4 of the redevelopment plans called for the Speedwell interior park to have direct access through a pedestrian entryway, enabling the public to enter and leave the park directly onto Speedwell Avenue. The new plans call for access to the park to be made through another parcel almost half a block away. This means that pedestrians trying to get to the park from Speedwell Avenue will need to walk halfway up the block, cross a pedestrian easement, and walk back towards the park. This is extremely inconvenient for the public. There's no legal basis for the town council to approve an $811,000 park design that violates all 4 redevelopment plans and is utterly inconvenient to the public. For this reason alone, this town council should reject the park resolution. Third, the town council should reject the proposed park plan because it may expose the town to increased liability in a lawsuit filed by my client. My letter outlines several reasons why the town may face increased liability. Let me touch on 2 now. Reason number 1, my client has long been and continues to be ready, willing, and able to develop the Phase 3 properties and to build a pedestrian entryway that will lead directly to the new park. But if an $800,000 park is constructed on the property abutting where Phase 3 construction will take place, Phase 3 construction will be far more expensive and perhaps entirely uneconomic. The town may be required to compensate my client if that occurs in the lawsuit. Reason number 2, my client entered into an agreement in March 2016, giving the town a temporary easement across certain properties. 4 years later, the temporary easement remains. If the park is constructed as designed, the temporary easement will extend for an even longer period and may result in a permanent easement. In either instance, an extended temporary easement or a permanent easement, the law will require that the town compensate my client for the quote-unquote taking of his property. The town council should obtain an independent legal analysis of the extent to which a new park will increase the town's potential liability. The town council should not rely on Mayor Dougherty, Town Planner Abramson, or John Inglesino to provide them with advice on these matters, because they are all named as defendants in the litigation and therefore have conflicts of interest. When the town council obtains independent legal advice concerning its potential increased liability, the town council should make this information publicly available to Morristown citizens before a vote on the resolution is taken. Finally, when I spoke at the last town council meeting, a town lawyer chose to personally attack me afterwards as being incompetent. Any of the town's lawyers or officials can do the same again tonight, and thus get in the last word by personally attacking my letter and my oral comments. However, I urge the town council to disregard all such comments. The issues that are being raised are not personal matters. They are matters that have a large impact on this wonderful town of ours. Therefore, every town council member should investigate each of these matters carefully and should make decisions that are in the best interests of the town and its citizens. As stated at the outset, my letter that was sent this morning at about 11 to all of you and to town officials contains additional points, and I request that it be made a part of the public record. Thank you very much for listening and for giving me the opportunity to address you tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Khan.
The next speaker is Eva Turbiner. Ms. Turbiner, if you would.
Yep, I am unmuted. Hi, I'm Eva Turbiner. I live at 13 Franklin Place in Morristown. I just wanted to introduce myself tonight because I have applied for a seat on the Board of Commissioners of the Morristown Housing Authority. I've been a resident of Morristown for 13 years, and I've applied for this position because I wanted to give back to my community and the residents of Morristown. We've loved living here. My day job is CEO of Zufall Health Center. We're a not-for-profit organization that provides health care to low-income and underserved populations. One of our 8 sites that we operate is actually in Morristown. We're located on Atno Avenue. And I want to mention that while we provide medical and dental services to a number of public housing residents, we don't have any official business dealings or other formal relationship with the Housing Authority. I'm not an expert in public housing, but I do have some expertise around issues of public housing residents, particularly as pertaining to healthcare needs. I happen to be chair of the Task Force on Health in Public Housing for the National Association of Community Health Centers. I also serve on the board of the New Jersey Primary Care Association, and I'm currently a board member of the Community of Foundation of New Jersey. So I wanted to just let you all know that I'm here and willing to serve. I also would like to mention on a totally different note that Zufall is holding a free COVID testing and flu shot event at St. Margaret's Church on Saturday. And I invite anyone in the community who needs a COVID test or a free flu shot to please come and avail yourself of the services. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Turbiner.
The next hand raised is Gwen Bale. If you'll please unmute yourself and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Gwen Bale. I'm actually from Haddon Township, New Jersey in Camden County. And I'm here tonight to speak about the backyard chicken issue that has been before your board. Good evening. Thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak. My name is Gwen Bale, and I'm a resident of Haddon Township, which is just a couple minutes away from the Ben Franklin Bridge to Philadelphia. I'm founder and chair of Camden County Chickens and Therapy Hens. When I found out my own town did not allow chickens, I began my journey to educate myself about hens and have taken over 60 hours of classes in chickens since becoming a certified backyard hen keeper, and I'm also certified as a handler of therapy hens. The Environmental Commission in my town studied the backyard chicken concept, and after several months came to the conclusion that it was not only sustainable, but there also was no negative environmental impact. We ultimately were successful at getting a pilot program that wound up being 3 years long so we could get a few modifications. And our successful program was converted to an ordinance, which we've now had for over 2 years. We have 30 homes in our program and have never had a verified complaint. We have approximately 15,000 residents in a township that covers about 3 square miles. Part of the reason I believe our program has been so successful is that there's a requirement for anyone wanting to have hens, since roosters are not allowed in the towns in my area, that they must take a class and present a certificate of attendance. I teach that class and average over 100 attendees a year. Of course, with the COVID-19 pandemic, the class is virtual and reaching people from across the country. The other, which was my mayor's idea, is that our program is run by a board not unlike the Shade Tree Commission of people in my town who own chickens and are volunteers. That means it costs the town negligible money unless there's a complaint that we cannot resolve. It is only then that the town enforcement officer would be called. It's called the Backyard Chicken Advisory Board, and 9 of the 13 towns that have changed their ordinances have adopted this concept, including the 2 largest, Voorhees in Camden County and Monroe Township in Gloucester County. Our town, as well as most of the other towns in my area that have used our pilot as a gold standard, does not base chicken ownership on the size of the property. We've used an excellent law review article from the Cleveland Law Review from 2012, which did a thorough research concerning national chicken laws and concluded that yard size was not important. What is important is how far from the contiguous neighbors' windows and doors the hen owner's coop and attached run is. They determined that at 25 feet from the neighbor's windows and doors, the sounds of hens clucking would not be an issue with the neighbors any more than a normal conversation in the yard, and that if the owner kept the coop clean, there would be no smell noticed by the neighbor. This has worked so well. In fact, most towns use 20 feet from windows and doors and not 25. At this point in time, I've worked extensively with 13 towns in Camden, Gloucester, and Burlington counties, helping them get chickens allowed in their towns, as well as many via email as their advisor. These towns cross the entire spectrum when it comes to population, demographics such as home values and types of properties. In fact, I try yearly to contact all those towns and ask about complaints. There just are not any, as well as with the county health department in my county. Most individual towns in Camden County, or all actually towns in Camden County, do not actually have their own individual health departments. All use the county health department. The largest township is Monroe in Gloucester County, with about 36,000 residents covering about 47 square miles. We also have an affluent township.
Sorry, excuse me. I just wanted to let you know that you have about 30 seconds left.
Okay. Of interest is of the four of those 13 towns already allow chickens in their property, including one that had a 3 and most recently a 30-acre requirement even to own a couple hens, and now does not use that. They've all are now using the 20 feet from windows and doors rule and actually got rid of a 30-acre problem. And all 4 of those towns have changed their laws during the pandemic as residents want more control over their food supply. We all have heard about egg shortages during the pandemic. This, along with vegetable gardening, is very reassuring during these trying times. We get wonderful fertilizer for our gardens once the manure is composted. Having a few hens is very sustainable for the environment. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Bale.
Pardon me. The next speaker is Peter Sudol.
Chickens.
Mr. Sudol, if you will unmute yourself and state your name and address for the record.
Peter Sudol, I'm at 16 Catherine Lane, and I heard that. So I'm very glad that you were able to hear Gwen speak. Who's been helping me this whole time, and I hope you can understand, and hear the words that she was saying and really think about it, because she's just a wonderful, wonderful person who's giving back to your community. And I need to stop saying this is something that I want, because it's what we want now. There's people that are getting on board with this. And I know you're tired of hearing about this, but it's what people are actually wanting to do. And the more and more people that find out about it, more and more people, excuse me, are getting on board. And I was thinking about this the other day, and I was doing some math. And let's say that somebody can comply with the law as it is now, and the coop is exactly 50 feet from their property line. The house next to them is separated by a driveway, so maybe 10 or 12 feet. So now the coop is 60 or 65 feet away from somebody's house. We're just looking to change that to, say, 25 or 30 feet from somebody's house. So we're splitting hairs here now about something that could come down to 30 or 40 feet. And that just doesn't make sense. Given all the research that's been put in this and the real data from towns, all the health inspectors that I've spoken to and passed along that information to you, the fact is that there just aren't the problems that you're expecting to happen. You trust people to do the right thing with every other kind of pet ownership in town. You have laws that are in place to protect those animals and to protect the people around them. And you're worried that some people down the road might get it wrong. And that's just illogical, because using that logic, we wouldn't be able to do anything. And you're not about to tell people that they can't own dogs because some people are going to get it wrong. There is so much data and research behind this that everything I've given to you, as you can see, is nothing that I made up on my own, nothing that I came my own decision about. This is, spending months and months of researching, networking, and finding people that have been doing this and are successful at it, and speaking to people in those towns to ask them, just like Gwen said, they just don't have problems. If you put the right laws in place, you can prevent people from setting up a coop that's not up to standards. You specify certain materials, tell them it has to be predator proof, and all these other things that we can put in place to prevent those concerns from happening in the first place, which just makes sense. You charge us a yearly fee, just like you would for a dog or a cat license, and you have animal control come out before you give the initial license. I have to pass that inspection before I get the license. There are simple things that can be done to really address your concerns. And if we just look at what's going around the rest of the state and country, people really are trying to make the best out of what we have. I stuffed my yard with a garden this summer just to get as much as I could. We have a little piece of land, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be able to do the most with it. And I've invited you to come over to see for yourself so you can really understand. They don't take up a lot of space. They don't make much noise. And they're just very peaceful animals that my whole neighborhood is enjoying now. They go home with eggs. My neighbor brings her grandkids over. My neighbor across the street brings his kids over. People are just enjoying this together. And especially this year when it's so chaotic and we just can't stop talking about a virus or politics, or take your pick of whatever horrible thing is happening this year. This is something that we are enjoying this, even though I'm not supposed to have them. Just take a walk down my block and ask the neighbors what the problems are. And they're going to tell you there's no problems and that everybody benefits from this. We already have a surplus of eggs that people are getting. No problem. It's one less thing people have to worry about. And if I lose my job a second time this year, I know that my family is not going to starve if I lose my job. And that might sound dramatic, but it's really not. And you've heard from the first speaker, she's, trying to keep her business open. 35% of restaurants in New Jersey are closed down. And that's terrifying. And that trickles all the way down to people like me who wake up every day not knowing if I'm going to have a career in 3 months if the state shuts us down again. So maybe we did kind of scramble to sort of protect ourselves. I can't wait for other people to protect me. And this is something that I know we can come up with a reasonable solution to. And I don't understand why I've been ignored for the last few weeks. No emails returned. You didn't address me last meeting.
Mr. Sudol, you have less than 30 seconds left.
Okay, that's fine. I just think that we should really just keep an open mind about this. And of course, I'm here to answer all of your questions. I have plenty of resources behind me that I can get answers to every single question, every single question you have. And I really think we can work this out. And you're going to start to hear from a lot more people that are interested in this too. So I'm saying we, not I, because we, the people in the town, we're asking you for this and to really talk about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stahl. You're muted.
Sorry. The next hand raised is Paul Marshall. Mr. Marshall, if you would unmute yourself and state your name and address to the record, please. Mr. Marshall, if you'll unmute yourself and state your name and address to the record, please.
My name is Paul Marshall. My address is 7 Arborview Way, Morristown, New Jersey. The proposed park that we're speaking of, that the council is addressing tonight, is a centerpiece in an area designated by Morristown as in need of redevelopment. I am the owner of all Phase 3 developable properties that abut the proposed park. These properties bound the park and provide the frontage on Speedwell and Clinton Place. To our rear are the 450 plus Modera apartments. Since January 2015, I have been actively working to develop my Phase 3 properties. Such a development would transform the street front and the rear area bordering the park into a far more attractive area. For reasons I can't fathom, the town's officials and representatives have continuously opposed my efforts for more than 5 years. My partners and I continue to be ready, willing, and able to develop Phase 3 properties, which would enable a park to be constructed that would conform with the town's 4 redevelopment plans. The town's officials and representatives are now proposing to construct an $800,000 park that will not conform with the town's 4 redevelopment plans. The park will also make Phase 3 construction far more difficult, perhaps uneconomic. So the existing unattractive conditions will remain in place. Notably, after seeing the agenda packet on the town's website over the weekend, I've spent the past 2 days trying to obtain a copy of the proposed park plans and the engineer's report, but the town's officials have refused to provide me with these documents. The town engineer's office initially stated it would provide the documents, but then refused to do so and told me to contact Jillian Barrick. When I called Ms. Barrick yesterday, she did not take my call. I left a message requesting the documents and immediately wrote her an email requesting them. No documents were produced. Instead, Ms. Barrick sent me a 1-sentence email telling me to file an Oprah request. So we promptly filed an Oprah request, but have not received any documents in response. The hundreds of residents living in the Modera apartments and all Morristown residents and visitors deserve a beautiful development fronting on Speedwell Avenue and Clinton Place and fronting on the park. This is best achieved via a direct access from and to Speedwell Avenue through an attractive pedestrian entryway as called for in all the redevelopment plans approved by the town council. Such is not included in the plan for the park. I urge the town council to reject the proposed park that violates the council's redevelopment plans and move forward with Phase 3 development. Doing so will provide this wonderful town of ours with the stunning new development and a much improved access for everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall.
The next speaker is Kelly Montez. Ms. Montez, you're using an older version of Zoom, so I'd ask that you please disable your video. Ms. Montez, if you'll please unmute yourself and state your name and address for the record.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I started with without video. I'm not sure what's wrong. Anyhow, Kelly Montez of Flagler Street. Good evening, everyone. As reflected in the minutes of the June 23rd meeting of the council, I inquired whether our governing body would consider issuing non-licensed restaurants permits to serve beer and wine, to help them during these trying times. Therefore, I fully support and second Ms. Gashion's stance and implore the council to do so as well. The new park at Speedwell is supposed to be a public park, yet Morristown has not furnished the community at large with the proposed plans. The general public should have been given an opportunity to review the plans and contrast them with the plans that were received and endorsed by the council in 4 redevelopment plans in 2011, 2012, 2015, and 2019. Related to the park, since June 2017, the amount awarded is $411,645 through 5 resolutions, starting with one for Dewberry at $163,660, and continuing with a resolution dated 1/22/19 for Dewberry at $21,000, a resolution on 8/6/19 for Dewberry at $71,500, and 2 resolutions both dated 3/24/2020 for Dewberry at $96,300 and Salt Design Studios for $59,185. Does the town council care about the public's contribution to the plan of a public park that will cost the citizens an additional $800,000, yet disregards each town redevelopment plan that has been passed? The proposed park calls into genuine inquiry why the town council was asked in March 2020 to end a 2016 park agreement and supplant it with another park agreement. The 2016 park agreement committed Mill Creek to the following: to contribute an extra $250,000 to the town once it completed its park design, construct the new park, provide for 100% of all maintenance costs for 5 years after the park was constructed, and provide for 50% of all park maintenance in perpetuity thereafter. The recently executed March 2020 agreement disposed of the entirety of the requirements previously stated and required Mill Creek to regrade and seed the park areas with grass. In the event that the town leadership intended to award a contract to build the park just a half a year later, for what reason did the town leadership request that the town council kill all of Mill Creek's 2016 commitments identified in the agreement for the park at Speedwell in March 2020? In light of the town's municipal budget presentation of May 2020, the town has distributed $2,098,000 for new capital funding, with 1.6 plus security supported and $430,000 award financed, and $225,000 for park and playground improvements. The town intends to spend more than $800,000 for a non-essential leisure when the town's funds are feeling the squeeze given the COVID. The resolution indicates that the $818,000 funding for the new park will come from 5 different accounts. Has the town council closely examined the 5 accounts? What were they to be utilized before this new park was proposed, and what projects will not, at this point, have reserves accessible, since these assets will now be spent on the park? Additionally, the proposed vote might be void on the grounds that the town has neglected to make pertinent materials accessible as legally necessary. The town council ought to likewise publicly explore and address the preceding questions and concerns before a vote on resolution number R166/2020 is even considered. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Montez.
Councilman, I do not see any other public comments. Hands raised.
So we will close the public comment period, and we will move on to council responses to public hearing comments. Given the development and legal nature of many of the comments, I'd like the administration to respond first, and then followed by council responses second.
Council President, thank you. I just want to, Ms. Barrick is going to lay out the park issues and the public sessions that have been held by the town public forums to discuss the park. But I just want, because there are some new council members, and I want them to I want them to understand that both Linda Kahn and Paul Marshall, they are developers. Obviously, they're not happy with the way things have gone, but they are the developers, and they have filed a frivolous lawsuit against the town of Morristown. The town of Morristown in federal court has filed a motion to dismiss. We are very confident that we will prevail in our motion to dismiss their litigation. So since this matter is in litigation, I recommend that the council does not discuss the specific legal issues. Certainly the factual issues Ms. Barrick will talk about in her presentation. Also, the town, as Ms. Khan said, the town is not represented by Mayor Doherty, Phil Abramson, or John Inglesino. Ms. Khan is well aware that the town in the litigation is represented by an independent law firm that has the interest of the town in its mind. So that's just another example of how easy it is to throw accusations out there without any basis. And that is also the reason why I stand by my comments that I made at the last council meeting, that the last letter that was sent was absurd, had numerous misrepresentations, was misleading, and very self-serving. So that there are council members that are new that may not have been aware of the history. So I wanted the council to know that we are in litigation, which is pending, and we should not discuss any of the legal issues that have been raised in public session. Thank you.
Okay. If there are no other comments from administration, open it up for council responses.
Stefan?
Yes.
On the matter of the restricted beer, wine, and cider, it's an interesting topic. I'll bring it up at the next Morristown Partnership meeting.
Okay, thank you. I assume that is not something that the town can legislate.
It's a state issue.
State issue?
Yep.
Okay. Then we don't have to.
Well, so in any response by the town, if supportive of the state legislation, could be in the form of a resolution of support. If the town were supportive of that. So.
Yep.
Good point. I'll bring it up, and so the businesses have some input on it.
Thank you.
I'll make a quick comment to Mr. Sudol. Mr. Sudol, I don't want you to think that we haven't been listening to you in regard to your comments about the chickens and revising the laws. I mean, personally, I'm open to it. I think that the laws that we have on the books are antiquated. They're, probably go back 75, 80 years. So I'm open-minded to the concept of taking another look at it. But again, just want to address his concerns that none of us were responding or considering it, and that's all.
Okay. If there's nothing else, then we'll move on to report of mayor and town officials.
All right, thank you, Council President. Before I go into my report, I'm going to let Jillian take the helm. But before that, Veej, do you know off the top of your head when the chicken ordinance was last done?
It was not that long ago.
That's what I thought. Could you find out when it was done and give that report to Mr. Helms?
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Beach.
Jillian, go ahead. You can take the helm.
You ready?
Yep.
All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Very good. So I will be giving an overview of the Park at Speedwell property or project and go over the process and what has led us to tonight's resolution that's before you for consideration. The park property is in the middle of the Speedwell Avenue redevelopment area. It's adjacent to the Madera 55 property, across the street from Madera 44, and behind Mr. Marshall's property at the corner of Speedwell and Clinton. It's a little under an acre. It's about 0.7 acres, and it's bound by Prospect Street and those other properties along the laneway. The existing conditions of the property, I don't know if you can see my cursor. It is very narrow at the top of the hill, which is closer to the Speedwell Avenue area, which is here. And then it slopes down into the bottom of the hill at Prospect Street and terminates at the corner of Prospect and the laneway across Madera 44. The Speedwell redevelopment plan as of June of 2015 specifically calls for a park in this property that is, again, adjacent to these two buildings and includes pedestrian access from Speedwell Avenue here near the intersection across from CVS and adjacent to where the AMC movie theater is, and ultimately provides a circuitous path through the park. This is actually a diagram from the plan in 2015 that contemplates pedestrian plaza with linear park spaces and streetscaping along the shared laneway in between these two buildings. This was the plan that was adopted as the Madera 44 and 55 properties were being constructed. This property for the park was originally part of the property that was owned by Mill Creek and was subject to a settlement agreement between the town, Mill Creek, the parking authority, and Paul Marshall's company at the commencement of this redevelopment project's construction. And this project was always planned to be a linear park in this location. What you do see before you is this area, which was originally intended to be a temporary access easement, and then a secondary permanent location, which was originally slated as part of the permanent redevelopment plan as part of the last phase of the development that Mr. Marshall referred to. However, the existing easement that is in place, which is located here, is what provides access into the park project. And we expect that should the next phase of redevelopment not commence in the short term, or certainly at any point in the future, that the existing access easement will continue to provide access to the park and has been planned such in that respect. To give you an overview of the timeline as to where we are, as I mentioned, the original redevelopment plan was from June of 2015. We did commence a park construction, a park conception design project, a park conceptual design process with public visioning with Ken Smith workshops. Ken Smith was engaged by the redeveloper as part of this process, and a public workshop was held on November 3rd of 2016. Following that public workshop, Dewberry worked with Salt Design Studios as a subcontracting landscape architecture firm to take Ken Smith's conceptual plans developed as part of the initial public concept process from 2016 and convert it into design plans that then can be bid. Those plans were ultimately bid in spring of 2019, and the cost estimates that were received by the town substantially exceeded the initial budget that was planned as part of the redevelopment project. Stepping back a bit, the original redevelopment plan assumes that the park would cost about $1 million. And it was, the original plan called for the developer to share the cost with the town 50-50, with the developer taking $500,000 in costs and the town taking $500,000 in costs. However, the original plan it allowed for the developer to split their $500,000 contribution into two $250,000 payments, one up front and one 5 years after the park was constructed. That financing structure was ultimately changed in March of 2020, earlier this year, as Madera 44 and 55 had been completed for quite some time, and the park development process clearly resulted in a park that was substantially over where we had initially budgeted. We worked with the developer to amend our design and the park maintenance plan to have in lieu of the $250,000 payment 5 years from now, the developer, as part of their park maintenance agreement at the close of the Madera 55 and 44 redevelopment agreements, they agreed to grade and seed the property for the park as part of the phase 1 of construction of the park, as well as provided $100,000 contribution to the town in lieu of the future payment and maintenance. It's important to point out that the grading and seeding that the developer contributed as part of that maintenance agreement well exceeded the $250,000 cost that or expense that we would have gotten later. If we had done the grading and seeding ourselves, it would have exceeded $250,000 in costs to the town. So having the developer do that as part of their maintenance agreement saved the town a substantial amount of money. And then the additional $100,000 contribution to us is available for future maintenance of the park. After the revised park maintenance agreement was put in place on March 11th, March 24th, this council passed resolutions hiring Dewberry and Salt Design Studios to do a second design and construction administration services for revised park design. Their instructions were to take the original public workshop comments from the 2016 public input processes and the spirit of those comments and do initial concept designs that were then taken to the public for 2 public comment processes. In June 11th, we had a virtual stakeholders meeting with stakeholder groups in the community to review the 2 concepts that Dewberry and Salt came up with. We subsequently had a public virtual meeting on June 24th of 2020. We had a lot of participation from a very good cross-section of residents in the neighborhood and in town, and had some really good comments about the concepts that were generated by Salt Design Studios. There were 2 concepts that were presented, a concept A and concept B, to the public, and ultimately there was a overwhelming consensus towards concept B, which is what we ultimately moved forward with for construction design and bid documents, and what I will be sharing with you this evening. I will also point out that in addition to advertising the virtual public meetings through all of our avenues online, through Facebook and social media, flyers through the stakeholder groups as well, the subsequent PowerPoint presentation slides have been on our website since that meeting was over, and is still available on our website on the redeveloper page. They were featured on our homepage for at least 60 days. Subsequent on September 30th, 2020, the construction bid was advertised. The bid opening was on October 21st. We received 2 bids, one of $818,000. The second one was $893,000. And so before you tonight for consideration is an award for construction contract to Ralph Checchio Incorporated for the $818,000 bid. Here is the park design. I will say this was an interesting process, and I think Dewberry and Salt Design Studios in particular did an amazing job with this process and this project. I will say now looking back at the redevelopment plan from 2015 and the diagram that was included in my earlier presentation looks very similar to this design as it ultimately resulted. But there was a lot of thought that went into both the topography of the property as well as how the property would be used by both the residents in the adjacent properties as well as in the surrounding community. And ultimately it was decided that we would have these 3 action areas or activity areas that will be used by the public. So the top area is the plaza. And this is really intended to be as kind of a small seating and gathering area. It will include some picnic tables and other seating, and is a gathering point at the top of the park. The middle area is where a lot of the grading and ramping happens, and there's some additional seating in this mid plaza. This also provides connectivity to the Madera 55 property across the laneway and into the parking garage, both from this entrance and the top entrance. And the connection from the top plaza into the mid plaza is through a series of walkways and ramps with significant landscaping on either side of it, which are planted with native species and trees. That the planting design was also, there was a conversation with the Shade Tree Commission as well about the planting to ensure that it is native and sustainable. The last area is the Great Lawn area, which is both a gently sloped lawn area that is also conducive to larger gatherings and certainly multi-use space. It will also include a few park amenities, as well as in sort of the adjacent area between the Great Lawn and the Mid Plaza space, there's some additional sort of hillside amenities that, climbing rocks and a slide that the kids can use. While it's not a traditional sort of full-blown playground area, it will include some place-based amenities. So this park has amenities for all types of ages and all types of people, and is a wonderful connection within the redevelopment area between the Prospect Street area and Speedwell Avenue. I also will point out that the laneway connection and the easement between the park and the Speedwell Avenue area, those improvements have been designed and will be installed as part of Mill Creek's responsibilities, closing out the Madera 55 and 44 redevelopment projects. This is a sampling of the furniture that has been included in the park design. The Adirondack chairs on the bottom right are representative of the color scheme for the park, the red and the oranges, and the tables on the upper left are expected to be in that color scheme to provide pops of color across the landscaping in the project. And then this is a sampling of the park amenities that are envisioned in the park and included in the bid specs. These are representative, although they're certainly not exact dimensions, but they are representative of the amenities that are going to be included in the park design. And again, these amenities and the furniture really resulted from the public comments that received both in the public comment period this June, as well as the public comment period that was done in the initial process in 2016. As far as the funding sources, the total cost of the contract that's on the agenda tonight is $818,000. If you will recall, the original park design or park funding was intended to be about $1 million, with the developer contributing half and the town contributing the other half. The cash contribution of $250,000 is in our capital escrow. We did use a little bit of it for soil conservation licenses, so there's $248,775,000 left that will go towards this construction. The balance will come from about $500,000 from Parks capital funding, which has been set aside by the town over the last 4 years since 2017, and the balance of a little bit of overage, $72,000 will come from the sidewalks capital program that's funded for 2020. I do want to point out that this is a little bit more than the $750,000 we initially had estimated. But I also anticipate that we are not going to spend the entirety of the 818. As you can imagine, any kind of construction project has, some contingency funding that's already built into it. We don't expect to spend the entirety of the contract as awarded, and anything that's not spent certainly, the balance will go back to the town's coffers for other types of use. But again, this project is something that's been several years in the making. We started this process in 2015, and it's now 5 years later, and we are looking to move forward with construction of the park. I personally am really excited to see this piece of property improved for the use of the residents in that neighborhood and in the area. This is an amenity that was included as part of the redevelopment process that a lot of people have been asking for and looking to move forward with. And we have the funds set aside to do it, and it's consistent with the redevelopment process and the redevelopment area and the plan that's already put in place. We should move forward, and I'm very excited to do that. I anticipate there'll be questions about timing. So once if we choose to move forward, the contractor is expected to start the underground work this fall, and the planting will be completed in the spring. And we're hoping to have grand opening, ribbon cutting by late spring. And it should be a great park when it's completed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jillian. Are any questions, comments from council?
I just need some clarification, Stefan. Jillian, can you go back to the funding slide?
Sure, hold on. Go back to my screen share.
Jillian, just a couple of questions. I guess the original, contributions was $1 million, 500,000 from the town, 500,000 from the developer, with the developer picking up $100,000 or the cost of the maintenance at that time of the park, the ongoing maintenance of the park. So if I understand it right, what we've done is we've got the 250 from the developer. That's the 248,775. We are going to be getting the other 250 when are we getting that other 250?
The redevelopment agreement was amended in March of this year, that in lieu of the 250, the developer contributed in kind the grading of the property, which is valued at in excess of $250,000.
Oh, so we took that 250 in kind.
Exactly.
Okay, good. And then the $100,000, was that in addition to that 250, that $100,000?
Yes, the $100,000 that was paid to the town in March as part of that agreement is in addition to that, and is in our coffers for future.
So the total amount from the developer, cash-wise, is the 250 plus 100 plus the 250 in kind.
Exactly.
So the total contribution of the developer in this instance is $700,000.
Yes.
Okay. Jillian, just one other question. What is the second account, the one ending in 0180040?
I'm sorry, which account?
The account with 331,000 in it?
That is a Parks Capital contribution from 2000.
Gotcha. Okay, good.
Yeah, we've been setting aside Parks Capital funding for this project for a few years.
Sounds like it. Okay, good.
Any other questions from council? With that, we're going on to report of the mayor.
Yep. Yeah, thank you, Council President. One, I want to thank the town attorney for putting it on record what we're actually dealing with. And I want to thank publicly again, Jillian Barrick and her expertise in the financial world and anticipation of several years of getting ready for this and laying it out so professionally that it's very easy to understand. And we are looking for another fabulous open space in Morristown. As we do everywhere we can, we try to do open space. And we've been very successful with that over the years. So I know that 44 and 55 and the people surrounding that area are really looking forward to this park. It's going to be a great amenity to Morristown and to that area. So Jillian, thank you publicly for preparing for that over the last several years on the financial side in preparation for this park. Let's start off with October 28th, which is tomorrow. 4:30, there's a community meeting to discuss the Burnham Park Master Plan, location Burnham Park Pavilion. That's tomorrow, 4:30 in Burnham Park at the Pavilion. Saturday, October 31st, this is this Saturday, 9 to 12, 9 a.m. to 12, Thanksgiving food drive to benefit the Interfaith Food Pantry at Town Hall parking lot. If you go on the website, you can see what they're looking for as donations. Please come out and support, as the food drive is a very important aspect of what we're dealing with COVID-19 and families struggling. I know St. Margaret's had a few food distribution today, and we're grateful for that. And people still need these drives. So anything we can do to help the Interfaith Food Pantry is a plus. Obviously, November 3rd is Election Day, and Town Hall is closed. It is the only polling place open in the town of Morristown. So if you didn't mail your ballot in, or something happened and you realize the last minute your polling place isn't open and you didn't know it was mail-in only, please get your mail-in ballots in now if you can. If the town hall polling place will be ADA compliant, and you can fill out a provisional ballot, which will count here in Morristown at Town Hall. It is the only polling place open. Your regular polling places are closed. It's mail-in only. If you need any help, please don't hesitate to call the office at 973-292-6629. If you have any questions, you can get everything off our website. And the county has a drop box at 10 Court Street, right across the entrance to the administration building. On Saturday, November 7th, Market Street Mission will hold its 20th annual coat giveaway. This time it's at the Town Hall parking lot. Visit marketstreet.org/coat-giveaway for details. I will link it in our town website. If you can, it's an amazing job that Market Street Mission does, handing out winter coats. It's been a tradition here in Morristown for a couple of decades. I see a lot of people benefit from it, and it's a really, really good event. And I really want to thank the Market Street Mission for year after year after year, making sure people who need winter coats get them. And as we know, this Thursday and Friday, the temperatures are going to drop. They're expecting some freezing rain. So people been trying to tell people to test their heating systems in their homes. If you have any issues with heating, please don't hesitate to call the town or a 911 if something happens and it's emergency. Also, people that use indoor heaters and propane and kerosene, do not use propane and kerosene heaters in your home. If you have electric heaters and you are afraid that maybe something's wrong with your outlet, or they're a cause of fires, and the fire will come over and inspect if you're worried about your indoor heater. Let us know. Let your council people know. Contact the office. We'll get the fire department over there and check it out. The last thing I want to talk about, which I've been talking about a lot on the posts, is mask wearing. It came out yesterday that these the town attorney gaiters. They're called, I never remember what they're called, Mr. Barr, but there are things that are running around your neck and you just pull up. Well, they're called gaiters, and they're very thin. And the word is that we're hearing is they're not as protective as a regular mask. So people who are just wearing the one thin, like they're kind of silk, one fabric is awful thin. Some people say you could take a mask and put a candle in front. If you can blow it out, the mask is too thin. So there's different ways you can do it. But Morristown had 26 in a day, 26 positives. And for a small, we're not a large city. That's a pretty good spike. We had 2 more today. We know now the high school football is canceled for the season. COVID-19 is spiking up everywhere. The governor was on the news about it. It is clearly rearing its ugly head. So what can we do as far as a community? And what can you do as far as the governing body is to get the message out through your email, get it out through your networks, tell people they have to please wear their masks. Even if they're walking down South Street, put your mask on. It's clearly not a good thing. And as hospital cases continue to increase in New Jersey, we don't want to increase here in Morristown. So let's really show, and I've said this before, other communities, how we do it here in Morristown. Wear your mask, wash your hands often, and social distance when you can. It is a lot of the small gatherings is where we're seeing these upticks, birthday parties, weddings, schools. So it's broad, it's across the board. And it's not just teenagers, it's not just 20-year-olds, it's 30-year-olds, it's 40-year-olds, it's 50-year-olds. It's a serious thing. I know they're monitoring closely the care places, the elder care places. So it's something they're taking very serious. And Jillian is in touch with the hospital, staying in touch with the hospital and county health every day. But it's our job to talk to the public, and your job, I think, to talk to your constituents about the safety aspect of the benefit of wearing a mask. I was told today, somebody was in a restaurant today in Morristown, the person didn't have a mask. Another person went up and asked them, please put their mask on. And they were a little belligerent about it, but they did go over and get a mask. But nobody should have to be told. You go into a place and there's 40 people in a restaurant or 30 people, or you're outside, you should be wearing a mask. I mean, it's just that simple. So if you can, get the word out, and if the public can please just do that one simple thing that they're asking, maybe we can push this back down. And I know it's difficult for everybody. I appreciate Leah coming on from South and Pine, a restaurant that I frequent. It's tough for these restaurateurs. It really is. And I didn't get a chance to ask her a question on how long does she think she's going to be able to hold on with the outside heaters as these temperatures start to plummet and they're not increasing the inside dining. So they're in a very tough spot, a very, very tough spot. So we got to do everything we can to keep this pushed down so we can get the governor to open up restaurants more and we can get this under control. Hopefully they'll have some therapies and vaccines coming sooner than later. But I know I'm stressing it, and I know I'm going on and on and on about it. I do every day, but it's that important. So other than that, Council President, I don't have anything else other than, again, thanking Jillian Barrack for her fine work and her fine explanation of the finances, and look forward to an amazing, another open space in Morristown and a park that's going to benefit a lot of people. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. Any words of wisdom on Saturday's Halloween?
Yeah. Okay. So, well, you all know I canceled the trunk or treat. I had to. I just, I think it would have been okay, but I couldn't take a chance on anybody getting COVID because of an event that we lost control of. I personally, as a parent, my child's older, so I don't have to deal with that. But I know it's an important holiday for kids, and it's tough. I think if you're going to plan on giving candy out, parents got to keep their group socially distanced from other groups, their kids. And parents that are giving out candy, either set up a table, individual bags with distance. Some people are saying set it outside the garage, in front of this, on the front of their lawn, and stand back and just have the kid, get a load of this. I don't know who told me this. Somebody took a big PVC pipe and set it up on an angle down the banister, and they drop the candy in the tube, and it goes right into the bag. They stand on their porch and drop it down. So there's different ways to be creative in how you trick or treat. But I will send out a concern that it's a personal choice. The governor has not canceled Halloween. I have not canceled Halloween, but I think you seriously have to consider the health and safety of yourself and your kids as you're going through neighborhoods. There's no trick-or-treating in the downtown, and trunk or treat is canceled. I guess it's an individual choice, and you just have to, the kids got to wear a mask, the parents got to wear a mask. They have to take those precautions, bring sanitizer with them, have the kids have gloves on, take the precautions, because we know for a fact, and I'm sure Councilman Iannacone can confer this with his medical background, that kids can get COVID too, young kids. So it's not just limited to, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and elderly. So I think that's really all I can say is, you have to be safe, be smart, and practice all those rules. I don't suspect there's going to be a lot of trick-or-treating, but if you're going to give out candy, make sure you're social distance and you have it set up where, they're not touching people aren't touching a bunch of candies. It's one per child, or, because some kids, they just go in a bucket and grab. I don't think you can do that. And you have to find creative ways. I love the idea of setting up a PVC pipe and sitting on top of you, if you have a porch, and drop it down the PVC pipe into a bag. So I think people can get creative, but just be careful and be safe. That's all I can recommend.
Thank you.
Mayor, I just have a quick question just to touch back on the importance of wearing masks, outdoor and even in the restaurants where, you have the capacity of indoor. Are there any recommendations on how, the patrons should really address, if they're in one of these establishments where masks aren't being worn to prevent, confrontation or any kind of ill vibe for people that kind of feel like they don't want to put on a mask?
So here's what I would do is I would not confront another person because there are people that are adamant about they don't think they have to wear a mask. I would talk to someone who's in charge of the restaurant. If their policies they have to wear a mask to be while they're not eating, then you can address it with the owner. I can tell you that I walked into an establishment, I guess it was 3 weeks ago. There were 8 to 10 people in a group. I wanted to see one person. I turned around and walked out of the place. I just, you have to make that judgment call. You've got to put your safety at first. You have to practice those principles on making sure that you're not getting anybody sick in case you're asymptomatic. But if you see people in a restaurant, you see people, I gave an example. I cannot believe people still run down the middle of the sidewalk while people are having coffee or outside a shop. They still do it. Bicycles on the sidewalks, people exercise. I just don't understand that. I just really don't understand why people can't run somewhere else and they still run down South Street. But, I'm not going to confront people. I'm just going to make sure that I'm protected. If I'm taking a sip of coffee, I'll take my mask off. If I'm by myself and there's no one around, I may not have a mask on. But if there's a lot of people walking up and down, I'm going to put a mask on. So you have to kind of practice your own safety. But I would not confront. I'm sure the police chief would agree with this. I think the counselors would agree with this. You shouldn't confront anybody.
Mayor, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
With respect to if you as you said, if you're in a restaurant and people are not observing wearing masks or things of that nature, I agree with you that you should contact the management of that restaurant. But it's not the restaurant's policy or lack thereof. It's an executive order by the governor that says you have to follow certain guidelines, which includes social distancing, wearing a mask when you're inside a restaurant, unless you're eating or drinking. And a perfect example was when the governor was in Hoboken, and certain people in his party tested positive. So once again, it is an executive order. It's a violation of the executive order. And I agree with you, do not confront. And as always, the police department, you can contact the non-emergency number and besides management of the restaurant.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you both.
Can I just ask one thing, Mayor? Can you just speak about Mitchell Colbert for us?
Mitchell Colbert?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned him
important to the town.
I mentioned him at the last meeting that he was ill. So he's a good friend of mine and passed away last week. And he ran for Congress when Mikey Sherrill was running. He's a securities litigator. He's been a Morristonian for a very long time. An outstanding securities litigator, just an all-around great guy. I can't speak enough about him. Vij knew him personally. Our kids grew up together. Been friends with him for, like I said, for half my life. So he will be really missed. And he was probably one of the best card players I ever played with. I guess that's something you learn when you grow up in Brooklyn. But he was one of the best card players I ever played against, and he was just an all-around great guy. Loved to fish, loved to do all the things that people do, and was very successful businessman. And he will be missed. And he passed away of cancer, and he fought it really hard. And just as he said to me the last time I sat with him at the hospital, as he told my wife and I, he goes, he fought the fight. The treatment didn't work for him, and I guess he'll see us in the big rodeo in the sky. And that was the last thing he said to me. So thank you for bringing it up, because his family's a great family. He was a great man, and we'll keep him in our thoughts and prayers.
Thank you.
Oh, and thank you, because now I got it, kind of midway today, and when we did our moment of silence, and it even dawned on me that we lost someone very near and dear to the Morristown community, Bobby Jones, sometime late yesterday evening.
Yes.
And he was really a big in Morristown, key figure, and he owned a taxi service in Morristown. So he provided transportation to many of us throughout the community, and he really did a lot to give back. And one personal thing that I remember, when my mom was going through her battle when she was in New York, Presbyterian, I ran into him because, he was fighting his own health issues, and, he used to drive himself there, on a lot of occasions. And I ran into him in the lobby, and he used to go and see my mom quite often when he would go for his treatments. And so, it was kind of heartbreaking to hear that, after a couple of years of, his health battles, that, he finally said, he's ready to go home and, be with our maker. And so, he'll be greatly missed. And so just may he rest in peace, and his memory just kind of lay with all of us that knew him.
As they said, may people's memory be a blessing.
Yes.
I got that from Wolf Blitzer says that for every one of his shows. Yeah, the chief of police mentioned that to me today.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Moving on to council liaison reports.
Morristown Partnership did meet last week. Big activity has been around the grant program to support small businesses because of the generosity of a specific donor, anonymous donor. They've received the application. A lot of work on part of Jen and the administration of the Morristown Partnership. They're doing a great job with that grant program. That was basically the some substance of the meeting. Just remind everybody along the lines of what the mayor is saying. Don't forget takeout at Morristown restaurants.
The Parking Authority met last week, and they wanted me to make the public and council aware that they are pleased to announce its new pay by phone app. The new app, once downloaded to any mobile device, will allow customers to pay for on-street meters and surface parking lot pay stations remotely. The MPA, Morristown Parking Authority, parking rates will remain the same. However, there is a 15-cent convenience fee charged by the provider of the app. Unlike the other remote systems, the pay by phone app will directly display time on the meter or pay station. They are anticipating that the system will launch mid-November. So I hope residents and members of council are excited and look forward to the new feature that will be payable via app on behalf of the Morristown Parking Authority. Thank you.
MHA, go ahead.
No, go ahead, David.
Okay. MHA, last night meeting was short. Was the election of the chairwoman, Maureen Dunn was reelected, and Commissioner always as vice chair. But also I want to highlight that the presentations for the seniors on the RAD were finished. And one of the features was that translator to provide Spanish and Russian translation to the seniors was hired during the process, which made the seniors participate in a very good way with good questions, and they were very engaged. Presentations for seniors are finished. The RAD presentation will be highlighted on the MHA website, especially for the family members and residents so they can learn more about the redevelopment at the MHA. That's all.
Thank you, David.
I'll give the Shade Tree Commission meeting update. The Burnham Park Playground will be having a spring tree planting. This is not part of the new master plan, but it's in addition to, and it's in coordination with Mayor Doherty's input. The Shade Tree Commission also placed tree protectors on trees in all the parks this past weekend. The yearly shade tree flyer that will go out with the DPW schedule is going to explain the spotted lanternfly. It's an update on it. As we all know and have heard that this invasive species of fly is eating our plants. The new update on it is it turns out that the milkweed plant is toxic to the fly and will help in killing them if anybody wants to plant milkweed to keep the spotted lanternfly away. On a separate note, I would like to say something. We're living in contentious times right now, and I will ask that everybody please from taking political signs off of other people's properties. We could all agree to disagree without trespassing and stealing. I've gotten a lot of complaints from a lot of residents in our town that their political signs are being stolen, their properties being trespassed, and it's really not necessary. Just respect everybody's property. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandy. Okay, moving on. Regular business.
Excuse me. Okay. We have 4 ordinances for introduction this evening. Ordinance number O-34-2020. Ordinance amending ordinance O-36-2019, providing for certain capital improvements at the Morristown Municipal Airport by the town of Morristown and the county of Morris, state of New Jersey, and appropriating $8,293,709 therefore to finance part of the cost thereof.
I'll make a motion to introduce 34-2020.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions from council? On the introduction of ordinance O-34-2020, Councilwoman Swanton.
Yes.
Councilman Elms.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster.
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone.
No.
Councilwoman Mayer.
Yes.
Councilman Silva.
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Ordinance O-34-2020 has been introduced properly by title and will be considered further after public hearing to be held on November 10th. Ordinance number O-35-2020, ordinance providing for certain capital improvements at the Morristown Municipal Airport by the town of Morristown and the county of Morris, state of New Jersey, and appropriating $10,033,162 therefore to finance part of the cost thereof.
I'll move or make a motion to introduce O-35-2020.
I'll second.
Comments or questions? On the introduction of O-35-2020, Councilwoman Cotton.
Yes.
Councilman Elms.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster.
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone.
No.
Councilwoman Mayer.
Yes.
Councilman Silva.
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Ordinance 35-2020 has been introduced properly by title and will be considered further after a public hearing on November 10th. Ordinance O-36-2020, ordinance providing for certain capital improvements at the Morristown Municipal Airport by the town of Morristown in the county of Morris, state of New Jersey, and appropriating $190,151 therefore to finance part of the cost thereof.
I'll make the motion to introduce O-37-2020.
I'll second.
Comments or questions? On the introduction of ordinance 36-2020, Councilwoman Cotton.
Yes.
Councilman Elms.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster.
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone.
No.
Councilwoman Mayer.
Yes.
Councilman Silva.
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Ordinance 36-2020 has been introduced properly by title and will be considered further after a public hearing on November 10th. Ordinance 37-2020, an ordinance amending and supplementing the code of the town of Morristown, Chapter 7, traffic section, Section 4-40.2, handicap parking on streets for private residences, to amend the placard number assigned to a dedicated parking space for a resident of 9 Cleveland Street.
I'll make a motion to introduce O 3720,
I'll second.
Any comments or questions from council? On the introduction of ordinance 37-2020, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilman Helms,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer,
Yes.
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
and Council President Armington.
yes.
Ordinance 37-2020 has been introduced properly by title and will be considered further after a public hearing to be held on November 10th. We have one ordinance for public hearing and adoption this evening. Ordinance O-33-2020, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 30 Land Use Regulations.
I'll make a motion to adopt O-33.
I'll second.
Okay, I will open the floor for a public hearing on ordinance number O-33-2020. Please be reminded that you must raise your hand in the Zoom app or press *9 on your phone to indicate that you would like to be heard. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less.
Councilman, I don't see any hands raised for public comment.
I will close the public hearing.
Any other questions from council?
I have just one question and a comment. You know, I appreciate what we're trying to do here, which is actually reduce the hurdle for people who want to use the attic or basements, not to have to go through the use variance process, but rather can go through the bulk and site plan approval process. That being said, my only question, my only concern, because I like what we're doing here, is it is limited to single family residences. And again, you know, you're conscious of, you know, large families, and sometimes large families live in multifamily dwellings. Sometimes it's a 2-family that is just as big as a single family home. Is there any way of refining, and I understand the goal of the limitation to a single family, but is there any way of defining the resident that can, by meeting the conditions, expand into an attic or expand into the basement in a residence which is solely occupied by a single family? Again, I just used the example of a side-by-side 2-family home. Was there any discussion as to why it was limited to single family?
I think that through the process that we went through and through the original 2019 ordinance, the 2019 ordinance was really put in place restricting attic and basement bedrooms and bathrooms to address the preponderance of overcrowding, which I would say almost entirely occurs in rental apartments. And so the reason it was relaxed through this ordinance for single family residences is that the single family residences are, for the most part, owner occupied, whereas multifamily, 2-family, 3-family houses are rentals, which, at least from the current overcrowding statistics that we have, are for the most part rental apartments. So that's why it wasn't extended to multifamily housing.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
There's no further questions. Call the question.
On the adoption of ordinance O-33-2020, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilman Elms,
Yes.
Councilman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer,
Yes.
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Ordinance O-33-2020 is adopted. There are 8 resolutions for adoption this evening. Would any member of council like to pull one or more for separate consideration?
Margot, could you
Yes.
pull 161, 165, and 166?
Are there
Bob,
any others?
Bob, would you like to pull 163, which is related to the airport?
Yes, please, so I can vote no. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Stefan.
Okay, with that, I would ask for a motion to approve, excuse me, resolution numbers 159, 160, 161, and 164-2020.
I believe the motion is to approve 159, 160, 162, 164.
Oh,
Is
I'm
that-
sorry, Councilman Iannacone, you wanted 161 pulled?
Yes.
Yes, please. I'd just like to have an explanation.
Oh, I'm sorry, I marked it incorrectly. So we'll amend that. 151, I'm sorry, 159, 160, 162, and 164-2020.
Yes.
May I have a motion?
That was my motion.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
Thank you. On the adoption of resolutions 159, 160, 162, and 164-2020, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilman Elms,
Yes.
Councilman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer,
Yes.
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution R-161-2020, resolution accepting a grant from the Morris County Historic Preservation Trust Fund for the Morristown Post Office acquisition. May I have a motion to adopt?
I'll make a motion to adopt R-161, 2020.
I'll second.
Councilman,
Just one question, Jillian, this is great. But there's no obligation on the part of the town of Morristown to actually buy the post office. This is a grant that can be held in reserve, but there's no obligation because again, we don't know what the price would be, what have you. Am I assuming correctly?
That is correct. It is a grant obligation or a grant award that we have 2 years to perform. So it'll give us 2 years to negotiate with the post office and get under contract to acquire the property. We have been in regular conversation with the post office. Sadly, much like their reputation sounds like they are, their responsiveness to us is fairly slow lately anyway. And the most recent communication with our attorney was that they're a little busy with the presidential election. So we're going to continue to communicate with them as often as we can to try to finalize a contract with, and we'll bring that back to the council when that's completed. But in the meantime, we did want to take advantage of the grant award program that was available through the county. And they were so generous to grant us the $480,000 that's before you for consideration. So that will be in reserve and for the next 2 years until such times we can come to an agreement with the post office.
Thank you, Jillian. If no further questions, call the question, Margot.
on the adoption of resolution R-161-2020, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilman Elms,
Yes.
Councilman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer,
Yes.
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution R-163-2020, resolution authorizing task order number 7 to contract with the Airport Consultants, Inc. for professional services for engineering services in an amount not to exceed $590,000 at the Morristown Municipal Airport.
I'll make a motion to adopt R-163, 2020.
I'll second.
I'm going to continue to hold off my votes for the funding of the airport. I did get a copy of the lease from Veej about 4 weeks ago, looking at it, and so hopefully maybe there's something we could do. That's all.
On the adoption of Resolution 163, 2020, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilman Elms,
Yes.
Councilman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone,
No.
Councilman Mayor,
Yes.
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution R-165-2020, resolution establishing standard procedures and requirements for public comment to be made during a remote public meeting, as well as for public comments to be submitted in writing ahead of the remote public meeting. Motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
I'll second.
Councilman?
Jillian, I think it's just important for people to understand that all this is doing is memorializing what we have been doing. Because this is basically just a law that was passed by the state, but we've been following these regulations since we went into Zoom types meetings during the pandemic.
That is correct. The state issued through the Division of Local Government Services at the DCA, a local finance notice on September 24th, which had a series of emergency regulations regarding remote public meetings. I will say I was not surprised, but impressed by us that many of the regulations that were spelled out in these guidelines we've already had in place and we've been following really throughout the term of the pandemic. But one of the requirements specifically listed in the LFN was that the council, the governing body, pass a resolution that outlines the public comment process, which is why the resolution is before you tonight. So, the resolution really spells out what the public process looks like, what the process is for someone to either call in or participate in the public meeting. And again, these are things that we already have in place. It's simply by realizing it by resolution, we are complying with the local finance notice.
Thank you, Jillian. Call the question, please,
On
Marty.
the adoption of Resolution 165-2020, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilman Elms,
Yes.
Councilman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone,
Yes.
Councilman Mayor,
Yes.
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Resolution number R-166-2020, resolution awarding bid to Ralph Checchio Inc. for the park at Speedwell. May I have a motion to adopt?
I'll make a motion to adopt R-166, 2020.
I'll second.
Councilman?
Yes, I'd just like to mention that I think it's important that this park moves forward. I think Jillian did do a good job tonight explaining the funding and the sources of the funds. And I think it's clear to me now that the contributions that were expected by the town were actually received, whether in cash payment or in sufficient in-kind payment. I will also say that I previously to this meeting had looked at the plans online. The plans have been online. I do remember all the public meetings associated with this development and the development of this park. They were open, there were active participation during the meetings. With reference to the issues that Mr. Marshall might have, that's why we have courts, and we leave it to the courts and let the courts decide on those matters, and hopefully it moves quickly. But very much in favor of getting this park moved along.
I just want to go ahead, Sandy.
Okay, thanks. I just want to say thank you, Jillian, for your presentation tonight. I thought I attended the public session in June. I thought the interaction amongst the public was inspiring, and I was thrilled to see so many people had dialed in. It was well publicized, and I think it's going to be a great addition to our town. So thank you, Jillian, for presenting that tonight and explaining the funding, because that was very important that you gave us the breakdown by the years and how much is coming out of each fund.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I want to add that having this park is very important for our town, for our residents. Early today, I had a conversation with Jillian in regard of many of the questions that were asked by the people that spoke today. and all the questions were answered with her presentations. Perhaps the only one that wasn't answered is how to obtain public records, and the OPRA is the right way, so it takes a few days. So if they ask for the OPRA, they will get it. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say that I was really impressed with the presentation, and I actually posted it on my council page on June the 19th, 2020, because I knew the meeting was that Wednesday, June 24th. And I actually reached out to Jillian to tell her how wonderful it was. It was exciting to have that, be able to vote on the plans and see how we liked it. And I just thought it was a great turnout. And I made sure to reach out to Jillian after and say how wonderful the presentation was. So I'm excited about this, and I'm looking forward to it.
And I just like to, thank you, Jillian, personally, because, you really keep us involved. You keep us in the loop. Anytime there's, questionable opposition or just things that are being said that are misled, you're always there, on behalf of us as council people, the governing body, to give us a clear picture, to give us a great description of, all of the facts, everything that's gone into all of these decisions, projects, and things that, we are weighing our decisions on. And so I just thank you for your continued due diligence and making sure that you're always able to come back and give us the clear picture of what it is that's being presented before us, whether it's, opposition or whether it's just something that, we're trying to do to move forward, to benefit and continue to benefit everything that we've been doing that we feel is, a great benefit for the town and for the residents of, the town of Morristown. So thank you for all your hard work and your due diligence. I appreciate it. And I'm sure the full governing body does as well.
All right, Margot, please call the question.
On the adoption of Resolution R-166-2020, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilman Elms,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Anacone,
Yes.
Councilman Mayor,
Yes.
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
and Council President Arlington.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted.
That concludes the regular business. There is no new business. I believe we have one point on the old business in terms of nominating a open member of the Housing Authority.
Council President?
Yes, sir.
Before you end the meeting tonight, after your next action, I need to say a few things.
Okay, Mayor.
I would now open up to the council for nomination for a commissioner of the Housing Authority to serve an unexpired term ending September 5th, 2024.
I'd like to nominate Ava Turbiner.
I second.
Okay, if there are no more nominations, please call the question.
Okay, on the appointment of Ms. Turbiner to the as commissioner to the Housing Authority, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilman Elms,
Yes.
Councilman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Anacone,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayor,
Yes.
Councilman Silva,
Abstain.
Council President Arlington.
Yes.
Motion carries. Ms. Turbiner is hereby appointed Commissioner of the Housing Authority for an unexpired term ending September 5th, 2024.
Margot, is it my understanding that I heard a rumor that there is another open position or expired position? Do you know anything about that?
Yes, there is a Miss Opondo's term ended this past September. As required, that vacancy was posted. In conversations with the chair of the Housing Authority, it's my understanding that there was to be follow-up among Ms. Denman and Mr. Kennard and Ms. Apondo to make a determination as to whether or not there would be a reappointment or whether or not she would seek reappointment at this time. And I'm still waiting to follow up on that.
Can you, no disrespect to the chairman or the director, it's really our position, our appointment. Can you reach out to the commissioner and ask her if she wants to be reappointed? And if she doesn't, then we will add the opening to the next council meeting.
Absolutely.
Well, let me just say something here to Council President. Not that I'm trying to overstep, but it's to my knowledge that the vacancy has been since September 5th of 2020, and so we're already going into 2 months into the appointment, and so I don't know why to my knowledge, if a commissioner or somebody that's on the board wants to be reappointed, in normal practice, it's either we receive communication of such reappointment of interest, or we kind of just move forward and we open up the nominations, to members of the public. And so rather than to hold on, I mean, this has gone on 2 months. I'd like to see us just go ahead and open it up for other nominations for any interested members of the public that would like to be appointed to the board.
Do we know if she has continued to serve, or is the board absent one commissioner?
I am not 100% certain. I know that Ms. Apondo travels frequently, so I don't know if she's been available to attend meetings.
I guess from a legal perspective, her position expired, and since we didn't reappoint her, she is no longer a commissioner. Is that correct?
Correct.
Stefan, let me clarify. Even with a reappointment, you still can take the nominations of other people.
Yes.
So the reappointment process is the same as the appointment process. So yes. I agree with Sheba. I
agree as well. It has been the general practice, or at least at times, to reappoint members, participating members of boards if they're in good standing and continue to be interested in serving. That was my only interest.
Oh no, I understand that, but I mean, I would just state, I mean, this is October 27th, and the appointment has been vacant since September 5th. And so if there was an entrance of reappointment, I would think that we would have heard from Mrs. Caroline that there was an interest of being reappointed, but I don't really think that we should hold the appointment up contingent upon if we hear that she wants to be reappointed. I think that we should use this opportunity to gather some other resumes from other constituents in the town of Morristown that would like to serve on the board, and not saying that if she does, seek reappointment, she can't be reconsidered. But I think we should, capitalize on this opportunity to seek additional resumes of other qualified candidates who might be interested.
Right, Margot, have you? Well, I assume that. Well, Margot, please open up or reach out or open up the position to members of the public.
Will do.
Thank you.
And Margot, if you would, when you open it up, if you could send the communications to all council members so that we can effectively try to seek an appointment for the board, seek qualified candidates. I just think that we need to take the opportunity to put the information out or communications out to as many people as we can to give everybody an opportunity to be able to serve.
Absolutely. Will do.
All right.
And so wait, one final point of clarification. So how soon would the posting go out? And then what would be the time period where constituents would have to be able to apply?
The vacancy was already posted, and the time for applications to be received has closed. I can reopen that tomorrow. And since it's already met the 30-day requirement under the ordinance, I imagine, and Vij, can you confirm, we could now set whatever deadline the council prefers?
That is correct, Ms. Foster. So you can set a 1 week, 2 week deadline in accepting new applications, and you can schedule a vote for next council meeting, whether it's the incumbent or somebody new.
The next council meeting is on November 10th, which is in 2 weeks.
Well, so when you say the vacancy, I just kind of feel like this one, the one that we just appointed, the vacancy we just appointed was, Margot, correct me if I'm wrong, it goes back to, the vacancy was when?
The vacancy that the council just filled was advertised back in November of 2019. It was announced to the public during the council meeting of January 28th, 2020, I believe. We were holding off to accept applications, and then with the pandemic and subsequent fallout, it was more or less pushed to the wayside temporarily until now. So Ms. Turbiner has been appointed to an unexpired term that expires in September of 2024. Ms. Opondo's term just ended in this past September. So this is, in effect, is a new term expiring September 2025.
So then, I mean, if I might ask the council, I mean, can we get, maybe just repost it for the full 30 days, to rush and try to get candidates, in the midst of COVID, everybody's not electronic savvy, to give constituents 2 weeks to apply. I mean, is that really fair to the constituents that might be interested? Can we open up the ad again and just run it for the full 30 days?
Yeah, Toshiba, I agree with you, because not only should we open it up for the 30 days, but that will also give us time to read the resumes and have contact with each applicant and talk to them and get their feel on why they are applying. I'd rather not do that in under 2 weeks and rush it. We have meetings in December that we can appoint this person.
So let's set it up for the so it closes a week before the December council meeting. There's one meeting in December or two?
There are two this year, December 1st and December 15th.
Let's close it the 8th of September.
September?
8th of September.
December, sorry.
Okay.
Mayor, you wanted to say some closing comments.
Yes, two things. I want to thank Mr. Iannacone for bringing up, for his no votes on the airport. And it struck me that Mitchell Colbert was the main attorney that I had looking into this for about 2 years, with people from the FAA. He worked at the Attorney General's office. I mean, there's a lot of things we looked at, and it struck me that when I was sitting on the council, how many times I voted no for the airport. But I would gladly love to sit with you and go over everything that we uncovered, and to go over some issues that took place under another administration that come into factor of why we couldn't get anything done on it.
Yeah, I think you and I share a lot of opinions on this. So let's get
we
together.
do. We're right on the same page with it. So I'm going to have Kristen set up a time when you're free.
Okay.
Because I know you're busy, to come in so I can go over everything we did. And we even had Margaret Nordstrom, the freeholder director at the time. Her husband was very savvy in the whole airport business. And we had a loophole. It's too long to go into now, but we'll sit and talk. And that loophole was closed up by another administration. So we'll sit and talk, and I'll give you everything I got. Vij, you can be in on that too. You were you were in on that whole trying to do that for almost 2 years, right, Vij?
That's correct. So let's talk in offline.
Yeah, I know. You get mad because I brought it up publicly. Vij's going to get mad because I brought it up publicly. I know how the attorney works, and I know how he sounds. So I'm going to get talking to after this meeting. That's the way it goes. But I want to thank Bob, and I also want to thank Councilwoman Foster for bringing up Mr. Jones. I did know him, and also want to recognize and put it out to the public to keep our chief of police and his wife Nikki in our thoughts and prayers, because it was his father-in-law, Nikki's dad. So remember the Richardsons in our thoughts and prayers tonight, and we're there for them for whatever they need. And thank you, Toshiba, for bringing that up. I did speak to the chief today. I completely slipped my mind as I had other things on it today. But thank you. And Darnell and Nikki, you're in our thoughts and prayers.
Oh, no problem. My favorite mayor. You know, you're my favorite mayor, and I know we all know. I'm sure. You know, all of us on the council. If you didn't, you know, experience, you know, riding his taxi or his business, you know, you probably know the name, and going back to the Jets and everything that he was and who he was. But I think it particularly stuck out for me because what hit me as we were going through the meeting and I was reflecting. And I happen to look at this, blanket that I have here, that I see my mom every day. I remember seeing him on the day that I was visiting my mom, and he was, getting his treatment, and just seeing his perseverance, through his whole time. And then when my mom passed, I said, wow, he's still here, and you never know what God's plan is, but, he pushed on. And, unfortunately, his fight, he was tired. But it just kind of made me think of him, and I'm glad that I was able to, it hit my mind, and I was able to, to bring it up. And I'm sure he's resting in peace along with her. And thank you, Mayor, for those kind words.
Yeah, he helped a lot of people out too. A lot of people don't know another side of him. My wife knows the side of him where he helped a lot of people.
All right.
Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Good
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.